Mr. Good from Virginia, followed by Mr. Norman, South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. And these are two such critically important subjects, both the inflation as well as the energy crisis. First, I want to just ask Mr. Moore about inflation, then try to use the balance of my time on the energy side of it. You talked about the 4 recommendations that you made, one of which was 10 to 15% reduction in spending. Some of us are old enough to remember when you used to negotiate car prices. You didn't get your best deal unless you had walk-away leverage. You were willing to walk away to not make a deal to get the best possible deal. I would submit Congress needs to have that kind of courage, which is in short supply in Washington, even among the leadership of our own party. What would you say to how would we force in a majority Congress, if the American people give us the majority in the House and the Senate, to where we could pass legislation out of the houses that would reduce spending? How would you suggest we would force the president to sign legislation that actually reduces spending?
Well, that's a great question. I've lived through a number of Republican revolutions. I was there in 1995 when Newt Gingrich became Speaker. I was there in 2011 when the Republicans had won a huge majority. And one of the lessons I hope that you will learn when you re-enter the majority, and hopefully in large numbers, is Joe Biden cannot spend a single penny. Do you know that? He can't send you have a one-house veto. The Senate can't spend money. The only way the money can be spent is if you appropriate it in the House, and then the Senate appropriates it. So, I mean, take a hard line. You're going to have a voter mandate for less government. I think you're going to see a huge, I mean, Americans are fed up with the inflation. They're fed up with the excessive spending. And I'd like to see Republicans take a very, very tough line. And that's how, frankly, when we were negotiating with Bill Clinton, we took a tough line with him and went back and forth. But, we passed 4 balanced budgets when Newt Gingrich was Speaker. Did you know that? It was the only time in the last 50 years because we took the hard line.
I would submit we've got to be willing to walk away and let the government shut down,
well,
dare Biden to shut it down. The media's going to blame us anyway. We have to have the courage to do that. Many of us are on the board of the House Freedom Caucus, and we've actually signed a letter to McConnell and McCarthy that said we will not vote to fund any government funding that does not, at a minimum, secure the border, end the vaccine mandates, and unleash American energy again, even at a minimum, before we even evaluate the merits of any spending beyond that, which, of course, I agree with you, we need to cut by 10 to 15%. Moving to the energy piece of it, with the limited time that I have, Mr. Epstein, I think you've done a wonderful job expressing the fact that we need to go on offense, stop accepting the left's premise about the dishonest and dangerous demonization of fossil fuels. That is the big lie, that it hurts the country, that it hurts the planet for us to continue to develop fossil fuels. And as you and Ms. Sagama have pointed out, how we are actually the clean producers, and emissions are going down. We're producing cleaner energy than ever. But I would just ask, how can we reverse course? What kind of irreparable harm has been done to energy producers and industries like auto manufacturing with this stop and go? We had the relief on the Trump administration. Now we've got the shackles again by this administration. The fear that would come with a new administration. Hey, what's the long-term projection? Alex, you said that we need a congressional commitment to liberate domestic production. So, Ms. Sagama, Mr. Epstein, with just a couple of moments left, but what would you say about what we can do to have a long-term commitment to this from a congressional standpoint?
Well, the first thing is to talk in those terms. So if you get power, it's how do you pass laws? And I think of this as we need an energy freedom platform. And I know I've talked to you about some of this, and I think 5 key planks are end preferences for unreliable electricity, decriminalize nuclear energy, liberate responsible development of American energy, practice pro-human federal lands management, and reduce emissions through liberating innovation, not punishing America. But it's really about making this a matter of law so that companies have that legal certainty. Right now, even if you get a better president in Congress, if you don't make things a matter of law, they're just going to fear the next election, and that is no environment for any business to operate under, let alone the long-term energy industry.
Which ties into Mr. Moore's, the 4th branch of government that's not elected, the bureaucrats. And Ms. Sagama, with just anything you would add to that?
I would agree. I mean, there's just such a whiplash from one administration to the other. We had some good rules put in place under President Trump, for example, reducing the timelines for the environmental analysis under NEPA, which affects all infrastructure projects. It was very limited to reduce the time because the time to do NEPA can stretch to decades, and that just increases the cost of a road, a bridge, a pipeline, whatever. And so if Congress could pass laws that would actually limit what how these regulations were implemented, I think that would be very helpful. Otherwise, we're just going to whiplash from administration to administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.